Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and we are here with our special guest today, Cherice Nicole Ells. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
And we are here to discuss. Now, at the beginning when Cherice came in, she's like, an addict isn't born.
Right.
And, see, I already got goosebumps. She nailed it. And I think that is a really kick-ass topic to talk about. So, Cherice, thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us today. And as I shared in one of the other shows, usually I have a female co-host, and I don't know.
I can let my hair down.
You want to let your hair down like you did earlier?
Yes.
If you do, I want you to do the Fabio thing where you
whip it around.
kind of do that.
I don't unless I'm getting paid, Al. So,
all
yeah,
right.
Not
all
today.
Right. Well, I tried paying you with some chocolate-covered almonds here.
Today's the day. If I'm going to let myself, today's the day.
Awesome. Hey, Cap, thank you again so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. So,
thank you for having me. I love being here.
Absolutely. And we love having you here. And guys, keep an eye out on Resilience Talk Network, who I'm sporting Brad's shirt today, right here. Join the Resilience. So I want Brad, you're not here, but see, I'm sporting your shirt. Cap and Shane have a real kick-butt podcast, and I know I've said this before like 3 or 4 months ago, but these guys are really rocking to get things going. So be sure to listen to these guys' podcasts because it'll touch you. It will definitely touch you. Oh my gosh, so Cherice, Todd Sylvester connected us, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he reached out and he says, Al, I think this is a gal you need to have on your show. And as soon as he gave me your number, I was on it like that. And I'm like, definitely. And Todd's an awesome guy. He's been a guest on our show, and I've been on his show, and you have as well.
Yes, I have.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself. And I mean, are you from Salt Lake City here?
I am. I was born and raised in Salt Lake City. My mom, she was a single mom for most of my life. She met the guy I call dad when I was very, very young, so he's been my dad my whole life. But yeah, I grew up here, just an average home, I guess. And as of now, I actually work with Todd on a daily basis up at Wasatch Recovery, and it's so life-changing just to get to work with him every day and to work with the residents that we have every day. It's so fantastic and so life-changing. And I don't know if I'm very lucky and very grateful that I get to see him every day, you know, because he is one inspirational human being for sure.
He is definitely that.
Yes.
That is for doggone sure. Now, with Wasatch, because we know Mark. It's Mark Richards and Jeff Richards. I don't know Jeff, but I know Mark. Mark was a guest on the show.
Okay.
And actually, my wife and I and one other gentleman went up to the alumni days last year you guys had. And I'm sure if you have it again this year, we will be there because my wife wants to go there.
September 13th.
Ooh, September. I'm going to write that down right now. September 13th.
I'm pretty sure. 99%
Okay?
sure it's September 13th.
One thing that I don't know, though, even though my wife went there, is the majority of the staff, have they all come from the recovery too, like a lot of recovery centers?
Yes. A lot of them are in recovery. I think the ones who aren't in recovery are probably the therapists.
Okay.
And that's not even to say all of them, because I do know that a few of them also had some past addictions, but have come through it, and now they're able to be therapists.
Yeah, that is so cool. And I'm very lucky as well because everyone that I work with is in recovery. And we talked about it on the last show because Cap was the guest co-host, and I think sometimes we get in some pretty thick stuff.
Yeah, we do.
You know, about life and a lot of stuff that Cap and Zach and Shane share with me. It helps educate me being the guy on the other side and helps me understand a lot more of what my wife has gone through, you know, in her recovery. And my buddy TJ, when he was here as a guest co-host, he's like, oh, so it's Therapy Thursdays for you, huh? and I love that. I'm actually
beautiful.
Coining that because, this is my therapy. I love being here in the studio with individuals like yourself because you guys are so inspirational. And to go through what you've gone through in life and to come out on top. And we talked about that earlier, Cap. It's you guys are way up here, you know. And like I said, and that's just how that's how I see you guys, because I've been working on myself since 2009 and really wanting to become a better person and look at life differently and enjoy life.
Yeah.
And I'm learning from you guys, you know. And I even told my wife that once coming home from an AA meeting. I'm like, you guys get it. I've been working my ass off to get here. And it's like, when am I going to get up here? And I know it's my own time, you know, but I'm still going forward. So you grew up here in Salt Lake. The topic about an addict isn't born, and I've mentioned this on our show quite a few times. Just get into the story a little bit, because before the show you were saying, hey, look, this is who I was, and this is who I ended up being. This is who I am now.
Right. Like I said, I grew up in Salt Lake in a very middle-class, average family. And my mom, she did her best to raise me. She worked sometimes 2 jobs, never was on welfare, taught me right from wrong. And, you know, then she married my dad, and he was a huge part of my life, raised me. My brother was born, and then my biological father also had a lot of children as well. And our moms were really cool on the fact that, like, just because they all didn't get along with my dad, my real dad, that didn't mean we couldn't still be siblings, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was just very average. I went to high school. I graduated high school. After high school, I had moved to Las Vegas to do some nursing classes, and I lived there with my grandparents for a little bit. And then after that, I actually moved to Ogden at that point in time, and I met, I call him Baby Daddy because he's the children of my father. He was my first husband. We, to this day, though, are still best friends. We got divorced when my youngest was about 1. But we didn't get divorced for any other reason other than we're just better friends.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
And we're great co-parents. Even, I mean, my kid's going to be 18. And like, even today, like, we still talk to each other about what's going to be best for our children. And there's never a holiday we don't spend together. But after Todd is his name. After Todd and I had gotten a divorce, I had met another man when I was working at the Westerner, of all places.
You probably know my brother because he spent a lot of time there.
And I was like I said, I divorced Todd, and so I was now a single mom, and so I was working at a bank, and then I was like, I need a second job so I can pay my bills.
Yeah.
Because I was, you know, trying to live like my mom, like never be on welfare, because that's we pay our bills, we do things right, you know. And so I remember when I came home. And I told her, hey, Mom, I got a second job. Oh, great. Where's it at? I said, the Westerner. And she goes, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. And I said, okay. And she goes, that one piece of advice is you're never going to meet a man that you want to marry there. I should have listened. I did end up meeting a man there. And we had started dating, we had gotten together, and we had like his family, my family, we combined our families together. And in the beginning, it was really, really great. At least I thought it was great. We loved each other. Things were going well. We decided after 7 years that we were going to get married. And we had gotten married, and shortly after we'd gotten married, there was an accident in our backyard. A tree had fallen on his head.
Oh, geez.
And so he had gotten frontal tenotomial dementia, I believe is what it's called, and frontal lobe damage. During this time, he was dabbling a little bit in drugs here and there. Not an all the time thing, but recreational use, I guess. We had gotten this little house out in Sandy, Utah, and one night I remember we were drinking. His brother was there, his sister-in-law was there, some friends were over there, and I was just done. I needed to go to bed or I was going to be sick. So I go to bed, and I remember I wake up and I look at his face, and like his face was no longer like the face that I married. You know, it was like his eyes just were black, and I was like, what is going on with you? And he had informed me that he had done some methamphetamine. And at that point in time, I had never touched any drugs other than maybe weed here and there. And I was mad. I was angry, and I was like, get out of my house. And he was like, no, just try it. Like, you can function. He's like trying to talk me into it, and I'm still mad. So he's much bigger. He's 6'6", 380 pounds. And I'm still inebriated, obviously, from the alcohol. And he, at that point, he'd held me down, and he shoved it up my nose and plugged my nose.
Oh, no.
So that was the first experience of me doing meth. If I sat here and told you it wasn't the funnest 17 hours of my life, I would be lying. Because it was, you know, it was a great time at that. Like, your endorphins are going, everything is, you know, you're heightened at that point in time.
Yeah.
So after that, like, it had kind of become like maybe a once every couple months thing. And then after the tree fell on his head, he had just started getting like meaner and meaner. He had lost his job, and I remember we went to a birthday party of one of our friends. It was around Halloween time, and he was still excessively using, but I wasn't aware that he was excessively using at this point in time. But he was excessively using meth, and he was drinking at the same time. And he had gotten really angry at the party and said, we need to go. So, okay, we leave. I'm not driving because I'm way too inebriated to drive. His cousin couldn't drive because he was also too inebriated to drive. So we're driving home, and I remember him and I got into quite a heated argument. And I will be the first to admit I have a mouthpiece on me. I can swear at you like the best of them, especially when I'm, you know, in a very heated moment. And so him and I are exchanging words, and I remember him saying to me, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I said, or else what? And then the next thing, I was just bloody everywhere, because that was the first time he had ever hit me.
Oh my gosh.
And so then I'm still, at this point, I think my adrenaline was still going. And so we turned to go up to, we lived way up at the top of 5400. So we're turning on Redwood to 5400. And then he starts to turn right down my mom's street. And I'm like, where are you going? Take me home. Like, and he, no, I'm not going to take you home. I'm going to take you where you belong. And again, it's Halloween night. It's maybe like 3 a.m. at this point. We get to my parents. And I remember as he was punching me, and he says, don't get blood all over my car. Because he had just barely bought in this brand new truck. So I spit blood all over his car. I was mad. And so we get to my parents' house, and he reaches over me, and he opens the door, and he pushes me out. And so I was wearing these really high, like, leather boots, and so I take one off, and I hit the back of his car and did my best to shatter his back window. And then he sped off. I went up to my parents' doorstep, and I'm knocking on the door, and I can see, like, my dad's head, like, go right over the peephole. And I'm like, are you going to answer the door? Like, answer the door. And so he answers the door, but he kept the little thing, the chain locked on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you going to let me in? Like, let me in. And so he unlocks it and opens the door, and I walk in, and my mom looks at me and she says, can I help you? Is there somebody I can call for you? And I said, really?
So they didn't recognize
my mom
you
didn't
at all.
Didn't recognize me. And so then after she cleaned me up, she realized, like, oh, this is my daughter, you know. And then special me decided I'm going to go back to this man. And so this became like a pattern over and over and over again. And the relationship just became so physically and emotionally and sexually abusive that it was, you know, and I kept thinking in my head, well, it's not happening in front of my children, so it's okay. So a few years goes by, and he's still heavily using. I think at this point I'm a weekend warrior, if you will, you know. And him and I got into a very heated argument again, and we lived in a split level house.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you walk in, you can't see anything but the 2 sets of stairs. And so we were downstairs in the basement and physically fighting again, and we hear the door open, and he gets up and he runs up the stairs, and it was Todd, my baby daddy, and my 2 children. And at this point in time, they were little. They were like 8 and 9. And he got right up in my son's face, and he called me the name of all names you should never call a woman to my child. And so at that point I said, boys, pack your stuff, let's go. Packed my stuff, and I left, never went back. But at this point, like I told you earlier, we had both had combined our children. You know, we didn't have any children together, but I had helped raise his children, and he knew the one thing he could do to hurt me was to take those kids away from me. And he did that. And so I didn't know how to handle this. And so my weekend warrior went to an everyday. And so I started using everyday, but I was still working. I hate to say the word "but" in there because, like I was a functioning addict, as you will, at the moment in time.
That's a word that I'm working on eliminating from my vocabulary.
Yes, yeah. And it's so at the time I was functioning and that had happened in about February of 2015 is when I had left. And then but after February, March, and April, I had gotten into an apartment, still working, trying to pay my bills. Well, he had found out where I lived, and he had started coming to my house. And my sister was staying with me, and she calls me one day while I'm on my way to work, and she says, "Hey, so-and-so is here," protecting names, obviously.
Yeah.
But so-and-so is here. He wants to come in and take pictures. And I'm like, how many drugs are you doing that you want to come into my house? Like, this was my thought process, that you want to come into my house and take pictures. And so she tells him to leave. She's not letting him in the house. I found out that he was like following my kids to their new school. And so it was becoming scary. And at this point, I'm still not knowing how to handle this. So I'm, finding my peace in the bottom of a pipe is actually what I told Todd a lot when I was on his podcast, because I just didn't know how to handle all this. And so it got to the point eventually where he had come, and the pictures that he wanted to take were actually pictures that I had already had. So he didn't want to come into my house and take pictures of things. He just wanted to take this box of pictures that I had from our life together. And they were mainly like pictures of all 4 of our kids together. But I didn't want to give that up to him. So he came over one day and was just causing such a ruckus, and to the point where the apartment complex had called the cops. And the cops had come, and they requested that I put a protective order against him. And so then things just started getting worse. I ended up getting kicked out of my apartment because of that, got an eviction, just because they didn't want all the drama. So I went to my parents, and I had said to them, look, I'm going down a very wrong road right now, and I don't know what I can do. I don't know how to handle it, but I need your help. Can I stay here? And so in that point, like, I admitted to my parents I'm doing drugs. And so my mom didn't know, like, she's never done drugs. What is this? I didn't raise an addict. And so she denied me, but she said, but your kids can live here. What? They're mine. You can't have them. It was my thought process, and again, because I'm not in the right state of mind. And I look back at it now, and I know that my mom just wanted to protect my children from what could have happened. And so I was mad, and I was like, screw this, I'm going to take my kids. And so I found, what we call a trap house, to live in. And I thought I was still doing good because I was still paying bills to the best of my ability. My kids' dad is still in their life at this point. Has always been in their life, but he was coming and helping me as much as possible, and he knew deep down that I was going through some things, but he was still paying me child support to make sure that like I still had food, or that I was able to get a ride to work or something of that nature. He was even letting me borrow his car so I could get to and from work. And then one day I actually totaled his car, driving. I don't remember where I was driving. I think I was driving to somebody's court that day. And I had wrecked his car. But even through all that, he was still my best friend, still there to support me. But it got to the point where I had asked one of my friends to watch my kids while I went to, it was summertime. And so I need to go to work or something. And yeah, I'll watch your kids. So I get home, and my kids and this person were literally in the walls. Like, they had put like holes in the walls. And I mean, so like, obviously the person that I had watching my children was very high at the moment in time, and that was the moment where I was like, what are you doing? So I called my mom and I said, "Kay, come and get my kids. Like, this is not the life that they need to watch or anything like that." So they went and they lived with my mom and my dad for about 9 or 10 months. They got to go back to the elementary school that they had liked, and my mom was doing her best, but still not, like, at this point, not allowing me to come to her house. of course, rumors are resonating throughout the family. And so my dad's side of the family, like, don't talk to her because she's just a dirty drug addict. And then my grandparents, my mom's parents who live in Las Vegas, like they were dealing with my uncle at the time who was also an addict, and they didn't want to have to watch it all over again, is my assumption. And it was just too much. And so it eventually got to the point where I didn't have a job anymore, and I just started selling drugs. And then I actually met my husband now selling drugs, and he was selling drugs, and we were deep in the game. And we had just kept going through this terrible rotation of like, hey, we're going to get sober, but we don't. We're going to get sober, but we don't. We're going to get sober, but we don't. And then he goes to prison, and then he gets out, and I'm still using drugs, and I'm telling him that I'm not. And so like this relationship of this person that, like, you know, I love more than anything, him and I just, we didn't have any trust anymore. And so like I end up going to prison. And I'm going to get into that in just a second. But I think me going to prison is when I truly realized, like, this is not the person that I am. So I'm going to tell you how I ended up going to prison, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, with what you've even shared so far, and I like how you went into the story on it, because, and Kat, I mean, elaborate on this if you'd like too, because so many people think that drug addicts and alcoholics, they think that they just decide one day they're just going to choose, and that's the road that they're going to go down. And maybe it's that way, maybe for a small percentage, but the majority of them isn't. Right. I mean, you talked about in your show, you know, when you had your first taste of alcohol, you were like, man, I like this stuff. Yeah. It feels great. But you also know too now that there were things, you took it because it was making you feel good, but also to feel good because there were things that you didn't want to feel anymore, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the reason why a lot of us fall into that trap, and you just shared that. And with the topic, you know, an addict isn't born. Now, there are those who, you know, have been pregnant and been using throughout. Correct. Where their babies are born heroin addicts or meth addicts and things like that. But that's, I don't know what the percentage is on that, but, you know, for the majority, I believe, yeah, you're just not, it's just not something that you're born into, because if so, we'd all be addicts at age 5, 6, 7 years old.
We stumble onto like this chemical solution for problems we don't know how to deal with. Yeah, it just feels good. Right. Like it takes that. It appears to be the solution that makes me feel okay, somewhat safe, connected, whatever that. I mean, for all of us, I think that varies, but it's the same thing. You know, and I know I wasn't, when I got drunk the first time, my intention was like, I'm going to be an alcoholic, I'm a heroin junkie, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to smoke at the filter. No, it was like, I feel good.
I give it my all.
Yeah, I feel connected to the people I'm around, and we're all doing the same thing, and I feel like a sense of belonging and safe, and you know, and I have that language today, which I didn't then.
Finding your peace, though, I think is a big, you know, becoming an addict, and it's, I'm a huge believer of it. It is a social thing, you know, although drug addicts eventually are not social, very but isolated. You know, like you don't get drunk by yourself the first time. No. You don't get high the first time by yourself. Very like it's a very social setting. And then you start to get to know these people that you're doing drugs and drinking alcohol with, and they're just like you. Yep. They have had some kind of trauma, or they're hurting so bad, and the only peace that they can find is sitting in a house with no power, smoking dope. Yeah. So,
Well, and again, it's that the stuff that we go through in life, you know, and we all deal with things in different ways. Some go to eating, some go to porn, some go to gambling, some go to gaming, you know, some go to work, some go to the gym. There's so many addictions out there. Yeah. Drugs and alcohol, though, are like the demons. Right. Everything else is fine. Right. I mean, I could be an addict with Xanax. It's okay because my doctor prescribed it, so it's okay. Yeah. It's just as freaking bad, but society looks at it in a different way.
The symptoms very obvious for us.
Yeah, right? And I think too, a lot of things where people have forgotten too that it's okay to hurt, and it's okay to feel sad, and it's okay to be angry. And I really, and again, this is just my belief, I really do believe that society has changed us to where, no, we can't feel that. So we got to do something so we don't feel that. You know, I mean, I know people now that battled with drugs and alcohol. Now their addiction is the gym. Yeah. I mean, they spend 3-4 hours at the frickin' gym. Yep. Yeah. You know, and it's just because they're doing it in a healthier way, of course.
Acceptable.
But they're still acceptable. But they're still masking something, right? They're still putting that Band-Aid over something that they're fighting inside.
They're still trying to get the endorphins to push down whatever's bad, to bring up the good, for sure.
And that's where I think a lot of the addiction progresses, right? Because I mean, with what you do at Wasatch and even what Cap does, it's like my wife said, when she got in deep with the alcohol, she would get the alcohol because she wanted to feel that feeling, but she couldn't. There came a point where that feeling was not there anymore. Yeah. You know, and she'd drink really fast to get that feeling, and before she knew
start drinking on an empty
she
stomach.
couldn't even stand up
in the morning.
You know, it was crazy. Yeah. All right, so you said you ended up going to prison.
I did.
We've had a few people on our show who talked about where their addiction went, and some of it was from selling drugs and different things like that. So what's your journey?
My journey was, so like I mentioned just a little bit ago, my husband and our relationship was just like, there were good points, there were bad points, but there were more bad at this point than good. Him and I had taken a break from each other, and I had moved. This was in August of 2019, by the way.
Okay.
So August of 2019. I moved to Price, and he was still living up at where we were staying up in Ogden. And I call him one day, and I said, hey, I got this really great opportunity to make some money. Do you want to go with me? Sure. All about money at this point in time, you know?
Yeah.
And so he's like, what are we doing? I said, we just got to go deliver a car to California. Well, what's in the car? And he said, nothing. You know, and everything came out legit. Like, there was nothing in the car. We just had to go deliver this car to California. So we leave Utah. We're driving this car to California. And if I do my homework, because neither of us had a driver's license. I'm pretty sure we both had warrants at the time. You know, so I'm making sure that everything is as legit as possible.
Right.
You know, and the car it was fully registered, fully insured. There was nothing in the car. So we're driving it to California. I don't know if you guys are a big believer in like signs.
Oh yeah.
Oh
okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, so I think I had Sprint at the time. And no bad talk on Sprint, but it's not my favorite. They don't pick up a lot of places here in Utah, I guess. And so we're on our way. You know, we are going to San Diego, and so we have to go I-15 south. And so we get to about Beaver, and my phone was just in and out of service the whole way down there. And so we get to Beaver, and my phone just starts going off, and it was my kid's dad. Hey, I need you to get to Brigham City Hospital as soon as possible. Hayden's in the hospital. And Hayden is my oldest son. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Is everything okay? And he said, oh, I sent that like 4 hours ago. I'm like, I know, on my phone, I've been out of service. I'm going on a job, you know, in California. And so he's like, Hayden had to have an emergency appendectomy, but he's fine. Go ahead and do your job, you know. And at this point, like, baby daddy doesn't know exactly what I'm doing, how I'm making money. And so I'm like, okay. I mean, I probably should have turned around at that point. But I just kept going. So Wayne, my husband, and I make it to, I want to say, we're right outside of San Diego. We get a call from the person that I'm delivering the car for, and he's like, hey, I got beachfront property in Rosarito, Mexico. You guys want to come over? And
I've been there.
I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe, you know, and I look at Wayne, and I'm like, well, I don't know, he's on parole, so, like, they're going to stop us, you know, and we're like, screw it, let's go. So we drive into Rosarito, Mexico, and sure enough, he had beachfront property in Rosarito, like this really cute little condo. And we walk in, and he gets this really big tote and puts it in front of us, and he opens it, and it was just full of meth. And we're like, oh, well, there's that.
Well, there's that.
Okay, what do you want us to do with that? He's like, it's yours. Do what you want with it. Oh, I mean, not all of it, but you know.
Yeah.
So we get down there, and we're having this conversation. He's like showing us a good time, you know, and he was like, so how would you feel about maybe transporting these drugs. And I'm like, well, I don't have a driver's license. He's like, no, walk. And I'm like, oh, well, sure. I've never been in trouble a day in my life before. Why not? And so I did it. I strapped myself. The first night I had a lot. So, I mean, I'm literally talking from knee to chest, just strapped all around my body of methamphetamines. And, of course, because my husband's on parole, I know that he's going to get stopped no matter where we go, and they're going to check him. So he goes a few hours before me. And, of course, he gets stopped, and they check him, and he has nothing on him because he's a good boy at this point in time. He's there for work purposes.
Yeah.
And so then I go a few hours later and walk right on through. No problems. And I'm like, okay. And of any high that I had ever had in my life, to walk across the border with pounds of methamphetamine strapped to your body and not get stopped, okay, it's awkward and gross now, but at the time it was like so euphoric. Like, I just did the worst thing you can do and I just got away with it, you know? So we go to our little hotel room, and then the next day, I'm talking to the guy in Mexico, and he's like, I'll double your money. You want to do it again? And I'm like, yeah. And my husband's like, don't do it. Like, you're getting greedy. Don't do it. But think of all that money, you know? And he's like, you're stupid. Don't do it. So he's like, I'm not going with you. And I'm like, okay, fine. Don't go with me. And so we end up going to Starbucks right before I go back into Mexico because he's not going with me. We go into Starbucks, and he goes into the bathroom, comes back out, and I'm waiting outside, and he gives me a big rock of meth. And my favorite way to do it was to snort it. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I walk into the Starbucks bathroom, and this is terrible, I know, but I crush it all up. And I remember I did the line, and I looked in the mirror, and like, I see me, but I didn't feel like I was talking to me. And maybe it was the drugs, I don't know. But I looked in the mirror, and I said, please let this be the last amount of dope I ever do, and don't let me encourage him anymore, meaning Wayne. You know, like, I didn't want to encourage this life for us anymore. So I get out of the bathroom, and I walk back into Mexico, and the guy picks me up, and we noodle around for a little bit, go shopping. I have to get a new outfit because I can't wear the same outfit twice across the border, you know. My Bixby just went off.
No.
Shut up, Bixby. I'm sorry. I get back across, we're shopping, we're having a good time, get a new outfit. And then this time, it was his wife that was strapping me with the drugs. And so she had strapped some around my chest, like up on my chest and on my stomach, duct taped it. And when I say strap, like, there were packages like this big. Okay?
Holy cow.
And they like saran wrap it, and then they put it in those like food saver, I don't remember what they're called. They're like little
the zip
vacuum
or
seal.
No, the vacuum seal, yeah, the little vacuum
okay.
seal, right?
All right.
So then she straps that to me, and then she has 2 other packages. And I'm trying to be smart about this, and so I have 2 pairs of Spanx on, and ladies, we all know what Spanx are for. Hides all the ridges, you know.
Okay.
And so I had 2 pairs of Spanx on, and she had a package, and she said, put this one up in you. And I was like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah.
And so I had ended up putting that package in between my 2 pairs of Spanx. And so during this time, I was probably still really high from the huge line that I did, but I'm also drinking Four Loko Blackout Edition from Tijuana, Mexico. And they are I was very inebriated, very inebriated. So now it's time for me to walk back across the border. And so they drop me off, and I remember him saying, just stay close to the wall. Okay, so I stay close to this wall, and I'm walking, and an officer stops, and he says, ma'am. And I'm like, and I just try and keep walking. And he goes, ma'am. And so I stop, and I said, me? He goes, yeah. What do you have on you? Nothing. You know, I'm just trying to play it cool. Deny. And his dog comes up to me, and I'm a very tall woman. I'm 6 feet tall. And this officer was not 6 feet tall. He came about to my nose, and the dog kept hitting me, with her nose. And I said, can you please get your dog to stop hitting me? And he was like, well, take the drugs out. And I was like, I don't have any drugs on me, you know? And so there's this yellow line once you're walking into San Ysidro. And he had pulled me across the yellow line, and I'm like trying to pull my phone out so that I can call or text my husband like some kind of word so that, you know, because even though he didn't come into Mexico, he was in California. And so I just wanted to let him know, like, hey, like, I'm not coming back yet. And so he has a female officer come and check me. She doesn't find anything on me yet. So she takes me back into this room, and she's feeling me and can't feel anything. And there's this space between usually your bra and your Spanx that's just skin. And her hands were cold. And so I twitched when she hit my skin, and then she felt the duct tape on me. And so I ended up just taking it all off, and I pulled the one out from my Spanx. And she pointed out that there was a slit in the saran wrapped, in the vacuum sealed, and the saran wrapped. Again, she showed me that there was a slit. So I'm sitting at the border for a long time, about 8 hours, waiting for the FBI to come and talk to me and question me. And they finally get there. They're questioning me if I want to say any names, who gave it to me. And me, when I get very frustrated or mad or not know how to express myself, sarcasm is my number one go-to. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm like, what are you going to do? Go get him? Like, you can't go get him. He's in Mexico. And so after this, like, banter between the FBI and I remember one of them, he drops his pen and he says, "You're really smart." I'm like, "Thank you." And he's like, "Why are you doing this? A smart woman like you should not be doing this." And I said, "Money." "How much money?" I said, "It's none of your business, because I'm not getting it now, And so then they're like, "Are you sure you don't want to say any names?" And, "Well, if I tell you a name of the person you can't go get in Mexico, do I get to go home?" He says, "No." I said, "Then I have nothing for you." So he slid this piece of paper over to me, and it was an indictment waiver, meaning nobody can be indicted on any of my charges. I'm taking full responsibility. These were my drugs. I bought them in Mexico. They're mine. Nobody. And so I signed that indictment waiver. I'm thinking, back to when my husband says, "You're stupid, don't do this." I was like, again, I've never been in trouble. I'll get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, they'll book me and I'll get to go home. I didn't like process that I walked across an international line. And so it's not just a California or just a Mexico thing. It's a whole federal government thing. And so they took me and they put me in a van and they drove me straight to MCC Federal. Didn't get to go to jail. I went straight to federal prison. And
wow.
Yeah. So, when I get there, I remember calling my husband to tell him, well, clearly I'm not coming home, so I don't know when I'll be home. And I was like, I need my mom's phone number. And I didn't remember my mom's phone number because a few weeks prior to this I had gotten in a car accident and I had hit my head, and so I'm assuming that's why, but it could have been the drugs. I don't know. So he ends up getting my mom's phone number for me, and I try and call her the first night I'm there. She doesn't answer. I slept for probably 3 or 4 days because I was coming down off of meth. And I remember day 4 or 5, one of the girls gets me out of my bunk and she's like, "You need to shower. Like, you haven't even gotten up to go to the bathroom. You need to get up and shower." So it was really nice. Like, she was a very sweet girl. She got me up, helped me shower, went to the bathroom, and then I went back to bed. A couple days later, I remember getting my name called. And so they called me they were countying me out. So they were going to take me to a county jail at this point in time. Still in a federal holding, but so they take me to the Chula Vista Police Department. And I actually just got told a few days ago that they have now closed this holding cell, but this holding cell is in the basement of the police department. No windows, no yard, nothing. Mm-hmm. No kitchen. Like, they send you these little boxed meals with beans. I hate beans, but there's always beans in these meals. And so I remember I kept trying to call my mom and kept trying to call my mom and kept trying to call my mom. My lawyer comes to see me and tells me that I'm looking at a minimum mandatory 10 to life sentence.
10 to life.
Minimum mandatory. And so that's about when I, excuse my French, shit myself.
Yeah, no kidding.
What? Like, and I'm like, I've never been in trouble. Like, there's got to be something we can do. And he's like, sorry, you did what you did. And so, but then he comes back and he tells me, like, all the stuff I had on me. And I remember getting really, really upset because I had only agreed to take meth across the border. And the slit that I had talked about, there was 1.75 grams of powdered fentanyl in that slit. Yep. So at this point now, I'm minimum mandatory 10 to life. never going to see my kids, never going to see my parents, never, all these things are going through my head.
Yeah.
But then to know that this slit was powdered fentanyl, like I was not supposed to live past that moment, So I kept trying to call my mom, and my lawyer kept coming to see me, and I'm like, I don't like you, so I fired him. They gave me a new lawyer. I really liked this lawyer because he was like, we can ask for things. If you do this, you can get good time. If you do this, you can get good time. Okay, cool. Let's go with this. He goes, you're probably maybe only looking at 6 years. I can do 6 years. 6 years is a lot better than 10 to life.
Mm-hmm.
And so he ended up going on paternity leave, and then I had gotten my third lawyer, who is amazing. She's a lot like me in that if you don't ask, you don't know type of thing. So anyways, we'll get back to the lawyer in a minute, but I kept trying to call my mom, and 33 days goes by, and my mom finally answers her phone. And she goes, hello? And I said, hi. And she goes, well, got yourself into a pickle this time, didn't you? Yes, I did. And she goes, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, Mom. And she said, well, looks like you got a lot of time to think. And left it at that and hung up the phone. Okay. So then I kept trying to call my kids, and they're not answering their phones. I think at about day 66, I had called my mom again, and because my mom was starting to talk to me a little more, because even though she was mad that I was doing all these things I wasn't supposed to, she's still my mom. She still loves me. She still wants what's best for me. And so I had called, I think on day 66 that I was there, and my kids were in the car. And I said, can I talk to my kids? And my mom said, Hayden doesn't want to talk to you. Okay, I understand that. I deserve that. But Liam does. Cool. So I talked to Liam, and I remember I apologized to Liam, and he told me, it's okay, Mom. And I said, but it's not. And he says, you asked my forgiveness, I give it to you.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and he was 13.
I was just getting ready to ask how old he was.
He was 13 years old at the time. So during this time, and I'm still trying to work things out with my mom, and my husband and I had stopped talking because he was not doing the greatest of things, and he's always been the type of person when he's not doing well, like in his drug addiction, he separates himself from the people that he loves because he doesn't want us to see him like that, Yeah. So I started going to church while I was there. And I started writing people in my family letters. I wrote my grandparents a letter. I wrote my mom and my dad both a front and back 10-page letter of this is everything I've done wrong, and I'm going to try and forgive myself, and if you could forgive me, that would be cool. And so I remember, I think it was day 90-something, well, maybe not 90-something, it was Hayden's 15th birthday. So, of course, I'm going to try and call him. It was November 29th, 2019. And so I try and call him, and he answers. I was so excited. And he's telling me all about his birthday and how great his birthday was. And I told you earlier when I came in, I'm all about notable quotables. One my husband has always said since I met him is, every life has its waking moment. And so when I called my son and he was, telling me all about his birthday, he says to me how great it is, and I said, cool, can you send me some pictures? I'd like to see it. And the next words out of his mouth was my waking moment in life. He said, sure, Mom, what's your U.S. Marshal Federal inmate number? And I just my heart sunk, and I still have goosebumps. I wasn't his mom anymore.
Yeah, you were a number, huh?
I was a number to my firstborn child on his birthday, and just to think 15 years before that, my whole life had changed because of him. And now it's changing again. So, and I got a little huffy about it. Again, my sarcasm came out, and he was like, I don't know why you're mad at me. You're the one who did it to yourself. I was like, you know what? You got a good point there, son. You have a good point. So I give him my U.S. Federal Marshal inmate number, and from then on out, he continued to send me pictures of him and his brother, and he answered his phone. And again, I'm going to church. I'm starting to run NA meetings. The church, the ministry that had come in had asked me to be the prayer leader. And so I was the prayer leader. I did the NA meetings at this point, and every night I would go around to all the girls and be like, Jesus is calling, let's go pray to him, And so I remember every night, I would pray for forgiveness of myself, and I would pray for Wayne, and I would pray for my parents, and my lawyer comes in and she says, "Hey, did you know that you could be bailed out with no money down, pre-trial?" I was like, "Oh, well, let's go." And she goes, "Well,
that sounds like buying a new couch."
Right. But my mom's always said if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, what's the catch?" And she says, "You just have to have a signer that's worth $15,000 a year." Well, what does that entail? Well, if they make $15,000 a year or more, they can sign. You have to have 2 signatures of that. I'm like, okay. So I ended up actually talking to my biological father while I was there. He had sent me an email one day, and so him and I were kind of talking, maybe like 3 or 4 times we talked, and I had asked him, and he said no. Okay, it's not shocking, but okay. And then I remember I'd written my parents a letter because I was too afraid to ask my mom over the phone. Because I'll be honest, growing up I didn't really hear the word no very often, but I was pretty sure this was probably going to be a no, but
yeah.
Again, if you don't ask, you don't know. So I wrote him a long letter, and I asked, and I kept calling my mom, and, "Hey, did you get my letter? Hey, did you read my letter?" And she would kind of like defer from my question. And so I remember one day the lieutenant, she comes to me and she says, "I have something that I've been holding on for 3 days because I didn't want you to be upset." And I'm like, okay. So it was an email from my mom. And in the email, my mom just said, I can't put myself at risk. I can't, and that was just a reminder of like, I created these by being deceitful and lying and doing drugs and running amok. I created for these people not to trust me. And that's fair. That's a very fair statement. So a lot of people, like when I'm at work and I get to tell my story to my residents, they ask me, "Were you mad at your mom that day?" Of course not. Because the one time in my life that I needed to hear the word no was that day. Because I was just bound and determined. I was just going to be better. I'm just going to keep working on it. And after that day, like I had received a letter from my grandfather in Las Vegas, and I don't remember what the whole thing said, but the very first line said, "To my eldest granddaughter, I want you to know I forgive you for all of your transgressions you've ever done." So like things were like looking well in my favor. At this point, I'm still not sure what's going on with my case. My lawyer comes in. "Sorry to hear that your mom's not going to sign you out. It's okay." I'm like, "Well, have you ever heard of like time served?" And she's like, "It's worth a shot." Okay. So I remember my first court date was supposed to be, I think, in January of 2020. But it got pushed back. But again, I'm living in a basement where we don't know what's going on in the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
Like we knew at the time President Trump was impeached, he wasn't impeached. Like it's not a terrible disease, it is a terrible disease. Like what is this disease? We don't know what's going on. And so it was just like right when COVID started and everything was shutting down. And so didn't get to go to court in January. February comes around. Didn't get to go to court in February. Oh my goodness, what is going on? March, I remember I was supposed to go, I think it was like March 15th that I was supposed to go, I believe, to court for my sentencing. And I didn't go again. And so I call my mom and I'm like, "What is going on? Like, please get a hold of my lawyer, find out what is going on." And the next day happened to be on my mom's birthday. I got an email from my mom that morning, and all it said was, "We're okay." And I'm like, "What? We're okay for what?" Then the second email came through, which was supposed to be the first one. It was the day that Utah had its earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but I'm in California. Like I had no idea of what was going on. Sorry that your wall's cracked,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "But can we figure out what's going on?" And then the next day, the world shut down. That's when the whole world shut down. And so, during this time though, like I did get to leave a couple times to go to the hospital because the doctor had found a lump in one of my breasts, and so they were like, it was concerning because I had to have an emergency hysterectomy when I was 23 because I had a bunch of cancerous cells, and just it was things.
Yeah.
It runs in my family. One of my brothers passed away from cancer, so it was very concerning. So I go to the doctor a couple times, and so my lawyer was like, maybe we can like use this with that, with maybe trying to get you out. So we had a court date again. I think it was for the end of March, and again it gets pushed back, and I'm just like, I'm never gonna get out of here. So my mom calls me on the 1st of April and says, "You're going to court on Friday." "Are you sure?" And the Friday was April 3rd. "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yes." So April 3rd rolls around and they call my name, and I'm the only one. So I go, they take me to the courthouse, and I remember the week before when my lawyer was talking to me, she's like, just so you know, the one thing that your judge hates most is sarcasm. Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Lucky me, huh?
Yeah. So she's like, so just keep your mouth shut. Yes sir, no sir. Plead your case as much as you can, and all will be well. Okay. So I get to court, and this gentleman is standing at the podium, and it's not my lawyer, because my lawyer had just gotten COVID.
Oh, man.
Me, what is this COVID crap? Because I didn't know, I'm in a basement. I don't know what's going on. And so, but he had two phones. He had one phone right here on speaker, and it was my mom, and this one was my lawyer. And so he tells the judge, look, she's never been in trouble. She's always had a job, even in her addiction. She's never lost her children. Like she's still an outstanding person in society when she's not using drugs.
Yeah.
And clearly she was in a bad place in her life. She just wanted money. So he's pleading my case to him. And the judge pulls up all this stuff, and he's like, you've never even had a juvenile charge. I said, no, never. And he's like, well, I appreciate that you've always worked. And he goes, I really like that. So he says, what are you guys asking for? And the guy says, well, we're asking for credit for time served, 3 years of supervised release, and maybe community service with unsheltered addicts to show her where she could have been in life. So he sat there and he thought about it. He was a very serious man, looked angry. And he said, okay, I'm going to give you, as of Monday, credit for time served. You'll be on 3 years of supervised release, 6 months of in-home incarceration, so meaning you're still in prison, but at home.
Yeah.
The reason that he did that part was so that I could go to the doctor and see if anything really was wrong. Nothing was wrong. It was just a cyst, by the way.
Awesome.
So that was good news.
Yeah, really good news.
But,
yeah. Something that you needed.
Yeah, something that I needed.
Yeah.
So 6 months in home incarceration, 3 years of supervised release, and then 200 hours of community service feeding homeless addicts. Okay, cool. Let's get this. So they take me back to the little holding cell. And it was pretty cool. Like our holding cells, they each had TVs with cable, and our phones were inside of our cells. Like it was not that terrible,
Mm-hmm.
But there was one cell that didn't have a phone in it. And so because I had now gone out into the world and I had to come back to the jail where none of these girls had been out, I had to now be quarantined because they didn't know. Like if by touching the air I was going to kill them all. So they put me in the one cell with no phone. And I'm like, how am I supposed to call my mom? Like, I need to get arrangements so I can fly home. And so there was an officer at the jail. Her name was, or at the police department, her name was Officer Jackson. She's the coolest lady ever. She was in contact with my mom, and she would come over and show me her text messages between her and my mom, making sure she took a picture of my ID so I could get on the plane, and everything was working out well. I don't know if I told you this, but I don't believe in coincidences. So I told you life waking moment is my son's birthday. So I ended up getting released from prison on April 6th, my birthday.
It seems like throughout this whole story, it's been on birthdays, right?
Yeah, it is a thing. It is a thing.
Yeah.
And the day that my mom told me no, I realized, even in my addiction, and I had never missed anything, a big thing. I'd never missed my parents' birthdays. I'd never missed my kids' birthdays. I'd never missed my baby daddy's birthday or my husband's birthday or my grandpa's birthday or any of this, And so during these 8.5 months that I was there, I missed all birthdays. I missed football practices. I missed football season. I missed, I missed my kid's first day of high school. All these these things that I never missed. So when she told me no, and I needed to hear that, and I missed out on those things. So I get to the airport my lawyer's assistant comes and picks me up from the police department, and she takes me to Starbucks because it's my birthday and I didn't have good coffee for 8.5 months. So she took me to Starbucks and I got a coffee, and she took me to the airport and dropped me off, and I had to have this little printed out paper because I was federal government property. And so when you do such a crime as mine, you become on the terrorist watch list.
The terrorist watch list?
Yes,
really?
Because you're committing a crime against the United States. And a harmful crime at that. Bringing drugs into the country is a harmful crime. So I had to have a thing that said I'm only allowed in the San Diego airport from this time to this time to get on this plane at this time. And then in the Salt Lake City airport at this time, and you must leave at this time. So I remember getting on my plane, and there were, besides me and my U.S. Marshal, that, by the way, couldn't sit next to me because the world was shut down, there was only, and it was a huge Southwest airplane, there was only 3 other people on the whole airplane.
Holy cow.
So I'm getting out of like what is going on?
Yeah, what's
like,
happening in the
what
world?
is going on?
Zombie apocalypse.
Right? Like and I remember I get off the plane in Salt Lake, and my mom picks me up, and she was terrified of COVID. You know, she thinks that she's old. She's not. She's like 50 something. Not like she's terrified of COVID. Terrified that like I might have it. I'm like, of all people, I'm the one who doesn't have it. You know. So I remember she makes me sit in the back seat of her car. And she makes, my mother's very crafty. She made me a mask, and my mother, she pulls up and she has her gloves on and her mask on. She's like, we have to make one stop. Okay. So we stop at In-N-Out Burger, and my children and my baby daddy were there, and that was probably...
Wow, how cool was that?
Yeah, it was a good moment.
Yeah, very emotional too, I'm
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah, very emotional, very emotional. So, so yeah, I'm out of prison, and then like I said, I had the 6 months of in-home incarceration. And so I go to meet my PO the next day so he can put my pretty little anklet on. And he tells me that I'm only allowed to leave my house to go to JSS, which is Judicial Supervision Services. So that's where I was doing my drug testing, and my I had to take MRT, moral recognition therapy, and just like one-on-one individuals, because that was another part of my probation, is I had to have some therapy because they knew there was some trauma there.
Yeah.
So I lived in Brigham City, and that's in Murray, like literally just down the street from here. And I didn't have a car. And I'm like, well, what about a job? Can I go get a job? He says, no. Okay. So I can't work, but I have to make it all the way down there. Okay.
And normally they have to make you pay for that stuff too, right? That's another catch.
And I did have to pay for all that stuff. And so I asked, well, can I have a fee waiver? He said, nope. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I went to prison, big boy leagues, federal prison, for big boy crimes, for drugs. Clearly I can get drugs and I can sell drugs. So how would you like me to make my money? But I was bound and determined that day that my kid asked me that question, I was never going to live that life again. And so I did everything I could. I never sold drugs again. And I, like, things to my mom would come up, and I would do her hair, and she would pay me to do her hair. I'd babysit my own dog that lives at my mom's house, and she would pay me. Thank goodness for the stimulus checks, because I gave my stimulus checks. I got to live with my kids' dad, by the way, when I first got out. And so I gave him half my stimulus for rent, and then paid my fines.
Use the rest to pay.
Yeah. And so that worked out really well. Not until like the very end of that, like the last month of my in-home incarceration, did my PO finally let me start my community service. So I started doing my community service with the nonprofit that I now help run, and it's called B.A.M, Beyond Addiction Mosaic. And
yeah, I know about that one.
Yeah, all pathways to recovery. And it's once a month we go out and we feed. We make, and we don't just like go and get like pizza or whatever. Like, we get a whole bunch of us. We go down to the Calvary and we make lunches, and we make hygiene kits, and we make sex kits, and we make all these things for them. And we were for a while doing a needle exchange, but that's a huge controversy for some people. So and we still do it. So that's how I became a part of B.A.M, and I fell in love with doing it. And I'm pretty sure I got all but like 30 or 40 hours of my 200 in that last month of my in-home incarceration, because I was just doing it. I loved it.
That's cool. Can we pause and go back into that? So we can pause for a quick commercial break, and then let's come into that, because we had Rachel on the show, who actually she was the founder of B.A.M, wasn't she?
Rachel is the CEO. Yes.
So and then you wanted to bring up your attorney too, right?
Yeah, she did. Rachel did tell me. I remember I was telling her, and she was like, "I've been on that podcast."
Yeah. Matter of fact, her show launches today.
Oh, does it? Yay, Rachel!
Yeah,
Yay,
So
that's
awesome.
so exciting.
Well, guys, stay with us, because we've been in the show for a while, and it's like I haven't wanted to stop her, because I'm like waiting for the next. No, don't be sorry. I keep waiting for the next one. Seriously, this has been kick butt. So, guys, stay with us. We're going to be right back.
Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you know what to do after being in a car accident? Are the insurance companies going to take care of you? Hi, I'm attorney Rick Heaton with the Law Office of Bobby Udall. I will help you through the process and answer all of these questions. I give every single client my cell phone so they can talk to me whenever they need. Let me deal with the insurance company so you can focus on getting better from your injuries. Call me at 385-330-0226. Again, my cell phone number, 385-330-0226. Don't call the insurance company first. Call attorney Rick Heaton at 385-330-0226.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street, or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffytown, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffytown. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffytown is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffytown stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whip-style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffytown and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account. And we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffytown can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer prepackaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone, and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com. That's taffytown.com to find out more about the products and services that Taffytown offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. We are here with our special guest Cherice and our guest co-host Cap. Man, this first half of the the first part of the show, like I said, we usually do our best to do a commercial break in there around the 30-minute mark, and sometimes it goes over. And we went way over on this one because I didn't want to stop her. I was. It's kind of like that soap opera thing, you know. General Hospital is the one that kind of
Days of Our Lives.
That kind of made that happen, where they say something and you got that look like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till the commercial. And I wasn't getting that look, but I was so intrigued of what's going to happen next, and that's why I didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
So we were talking about B.A.M, and yeah, when Rachel was on the show, she talked a lot about it, and I really love that organization and what they're doing. However, I want to go backwards a little bit because you were talking about your lawyer. Now, did you finish touching base on that? And I was so wrapped up with the story, I missed it because it was your third attorney.
Right, my third attorney, and like I remember she comes in while I'm still in prison, and she's just this cute little, like, she looked like she was maybe 19. I mean, she was obviously older, but she was spunky, and she was just like, yeah, let's ask for it. Why not? You know, she pulled out this whole, like, when you go to federal prison, you're on a metric system, right? And so, like, it's literally a graph. Okay. This is what you've done in your life, so this is what your matrix is going to be. Well, I've done nothing in my life, so my matrix is really, really small. So, so that's why she's like, why not? You know, why not ask for time served? What's the worst they're going to say? No.
Yeah.
And then you got to sit here, you know? And so that was she was just so amazing. And she did, even after I got out of prison and I was like, I can't have a job, you know? She still, like, tried to help me, and she was in contact with my PO and my judge, because my judge was still in California. And so she was like, you know, let me talk to your judge. So she goes in. She doesn't even call him on the phone. She goes into the court and is like, I'm requesting that she gets to go to work. And he said, no. What do you mean no? How is she supposed to pay for all this stuff, you know? And so then she even went a step further, and she was like, do me a favor and send me all of your receipts from JSS. so that I can show the judge, like, you have to pay for these. You know, you have no money in savings. I blew that a long time ago on my drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't, and the answer was still no. And I'm like, okay, you know, and every once in a while I'll get an email from her, just, hey, how you doing? You know, and I like to send her updates of, like, I'm doing really good, really, really good. So, but yeah, I was at the end of my in-home incarceration, and I remember, like, I was having to ask during this whole time, I was having to ask my husband's dad, and at this point my husband's now in prison, by the way, not for same charges or anything like that. He had ended up going to prison 3 weeks before I got out of prison. And he had some charges in, like, Davis County, and he was trying to do the right thing, put himself in a program, got himself on ankle monitor. Like, I want to do better. And so, but they still put him in prison. And so I was asking his dad, because his dad lived in Brigham City, and so his dad was bringing me down, and he would wait outside if I had an hour-long therapy session or an hour and a half, 2-hour MRT class, you know. I mean, he might go noodle around Salt Lake, but he was doing the best he could to help me out. And anytime I could, like, I'd throw him $20 here or there, you know, if I'd cook a lot. And so the people at JSS, like, they didn't want me to fail. And so they found out, I was telling you earlier about my chili verde.
Yeah.
They found out about my infamous chili verde. And so they
From scratch.
and I'm talking, like, roasting the peppers on the grill and, like, just all of it from scratch. And it's real good when it comes out of the garden, so it's super from scratch.
Can we put our order in now?
Yes. So they would buy that, or they buy some guacamole from me, or, like, and I'm a mean cheesecake maker, and so they were, you know, they would buy the product for me, and, you know, so that I wouldn't fail at what I was trying to do. And so it comes time for me I'm about a month away, and I'm like, I just feel like I've exhausted asking Wayne's dad for all these rides, and I'm feeling terrible, you know, because he was going through it in his own life. He'd got a new place to live. It's more expensive, and I'm just like, I'm probably draining him on gas because he had a truck. And so I was talking to my mom, and my uncle, my mom's little brother, was like, you know, maybe me and your mom can go in on a car for you, like, just a cheap little car. And so I talked to my mom about it, and she's like, you know, you don't need to have your uncle help buy a car. It's fine. And so we ended up finding this I called her my little red ratchet. And she was a little Hyundai Elantra, like 2003 Hyundai Elantra, had like 400,000 miles on it, and she was $400, and my mom paid that $400. And I told her, as soon as I'm off the ankle monitor, Mom, I'm gonna get a job, I'm gonna pay you back. And she's like, I know. And, like, and that feeling of, like, I know, was like, okay, that's cool, you know, like,
yeah.
Like, you believe me, and that's, like, I shouldn't be shocked because I'm telling you the truth, but, like, it's a really good feeling, you know? And so, but I also, during this time, I had to have a cell phone. Well, my mom had bought me a cell phone and had a plan, and she said until I'm off ankle monitor, I wouldn't have to pay her for my cell phone. And there was, like, my plane flight home, you know, and that was apparently really expensive because nobody was on the plane.
Yeah.
So it was like $300 and something for a one-way ticket. So, like, all these things had racked up, and it ended up being like $1,500 and something. And so I remember I go to get my car, and I had gotten an extra length of time from checking in at JSS to go and pick up the car. And I had told my PO, and my PO knew that I didn't have a driver's license, but he's like, as long as you're making it there, I don't care. Just make sure your car's registered and insured. Okay, cool. So I get to have a little extra time. My mom comes and picks me up from JSS, and we go get my car. And I end up following my mom over to her house so my dad can look at it. And like I said, my dad, there was a lot of trust issues, you know, and I mean, I was a teenage asshole. I'm going to be real. I was a teenage asshole to him when I shouldn't have been, because he gave me the world when he didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just a lot of mistrust there. And, like, I know, like, looking back at it now, like, he was just, like, in the background watching, you know, to, like, to make sure that I'm really going to pull my head out of my ass.
Yeah.
And so I get there, and he's looking at my car, and he's like, hey, will you run to the smoke shop for me really quick? Sure. So my dad pulled out, I think it was maybe $100 bill, and he handed it to me to go to the smoke shop and get him some vape juice and some coils for his vape, and then to bring back his change. And the stuff. And I still, like, it's like, he trusts me again, and that's, like, that is beyond the best feeling And I'm pretty sure it was actually around his birthday, of all days. Shocking. Yeah. October 4th, I think, is when it was. But yeah, it was such a good feeling to be like, you're gonna give me money, know that I'm gonna do what I say I'm gonna do. So I get back and I give it to him, and that was it. Like, there was no words spoken about it. I was excited. I have a vlog that I do on B.A.M and Facebook, and I call it my notable quotable, and like, I was really excited. So I talked all about how, like, he trusts me, and that's a great feeling.
And to pause you for a minute, I know that is a really good feeling, not for myself, but not for myself, however, to watch my wife go through that. Because there was a time, I have these 3 mason jars, and I put quarters in one, and that's just, we have a washer, but we don't have a dryer, so we have to dry our stuff down at the place at the apartment complex. And then I put pennies. Actually, I have 4, and then I put the nickels and dimes in one. And I got to a point where I had to hide it because she would take it, and then that's what she'd go buy her booze with. And when I finally put it out on the dresser and left them there, you would have thought that I had just given my wife $1,000 gift card to go on a shopping spree. I mean, really, that's how much it meant to my wife. Yeah. And she even come out and she goes, I need to give you a big hug. And I'm like, why? And she gives me this hug. She goes, thank you. Thank you for what? What the hell did I do? And she goes, thank you for putting your change jars back out, because that says that you're starting to trust me. And to see the look on her face, it meant the world to her. So again, I don't know how that felt, but to see the joy that was in my wife, I can imagine the joy that it was for you.
But then I think of it like the opposite way of like, how joyful must it be that my dad can trust me again? Yeah. Like, isn't that a good feeling that like,
it was a good feeling. You can trust your
wife again, And so it's So that was another big like milestone in all of this for me. And so I end up calling my PO a week before I'm supposed to be off ankle monitor, off in-home incarceration on October 7th. And so I call my PO and I'm like, shall we set a date that I can come? And he's like, maybe like the 10th or 11th. I'm like, I will drive it to you myself, because the judge said, and he's like, so are you planning on staying in Utah? And I was so confused at the question. I'm like, well, I live in Utah, of course. And he goes, okay, well, I'll transfer your case over to Utah.
Oh, it wasn't transferred the whole time?
This whole time you haven't. So no wonder it was like JSS probably thought I knew that it was still in California. So they're like, for this girl to like keep coming, like she's really got to be trying. Well, now it all made sense. So he puts my paperwork through, and I tell him I will be there as soon as you open on October 7th to get my ankle monitor off. I wasn't taking no for an answer. Yeah. And so I went and I took him my ankle monitor, there was a base. It was a radio frequency one. So I took him the base and I got my ankle monitor off. And of course, like I'm looking for jobs at this point. And so I'd applied for a part-time grave line staff at Wasatch. And I had gotten a call from, his name's Jake, he's no longer there, but I had gotten a call from Jake, and he's like, hey, you want to come in and interview? And I'm like, actually, no, I lied. It was a text message, because Jake never calls. It was a text message with some thumbs up on it. Which I was like, okay, this guy's cool. Like, he's using emojis.
He's all right. He's down with the times.
Right. So October 17th, I remember I get all dolled up, and like I hadn't worn makeup in 2 years. I put some mascara on my face, and I did my hair, and I was ready for this interview, And I walk in, and we have this interview, and he kind of asked me a little bit about like my drug history, and I was like, well, I was an addict, but I'm in recovery, and at this point I was just over a year clean at this point. And so he's like, that's all I require. He's like, I think you'll be a great fit. And like, what's your criminal history? And I told him, like, I have 3 first-degree felonies on a federal level. And this is what they're for. And he's like, we can work with it. And okay. So I started there November 1st of 2020. And then I worked my butt off to get to where I'm at now. And now I'm the facility manager.
That stuff is so cool, and I tip my hat off to Wasatch for allowing you to come in, for them to hire you, because that's another one of my soapbox issues that I have. My wife struggled finding a job, and I know Amy, I won't say her last name because I don't know if she wants me to, and I know she's been working up at the state capitol to have records expunged and things like that. And my wife ended up getting 2 jobs. One was working with kids because she's like, I don't want to do accounts payable anymore. Right. I want to do something where I'm giving back. And it's something that they teach you in recovery as well, right? Start giving back to the community and service, because it really helps in your recovery.
It does.
And she's all excited. She come home from the first day at work, and she was hired on the first interview. And she's just like, oh my gosh, I got it. She's just loving it. She was there 2 weeks and her background check comes back, and she comes out. I go to pick her up one day, and she's like, they just let me go. I'm like, why? She says, because of my record. And because they are state funded, they have to be careful who they have. Right. Then she gets hired on another place. Same thing. She's there about a week and a half. The background check comes back. They let her go again. So it's really cool. Like Shane hires people who are in recovery. I know there's a handful of people out there that do it. It's usually people who have the businesses who went through recovery themselves because they know how hard it is. But for Wasatch also to open up their arms and say, yeah, we'll work with this. You know, let's see where this goes, I think is such a cool thing, because I'm just as guilty. You see the addicts or the alcoholics, you make your own comment, whether it's in your head or to your friends or your spouse or whatever, saying, you know, look at them. Why don't they get their shit together? Why don't, you know, give back to the community. Why don't you go get a job? Well, then you get the people who really want to get well, which I believe is the majority of them. They don't want to live that life. They just don't know how to get out. They finally start doing it, and then no one gives them that opportunity. So we're the ones over here on the other side griping and bitching and moaning about it, but then when they finally start doing it, well, screw you. So what do? They go right back to what they know, because again, they start feeling like they're worthless. It's never going to change. And it's that whole cycle. And that's something that I really, really have a hard thing with, because everyone deserves an opportunity, man. If we haven't been given second chances in life, or third chances, or fourth chances, the population, I think, would be a lot less, right?
For sure.
I mean, seriously, because we all need it. You know, none of us have a clean closet. I mean, I know for sure I don't. You know, I've got a lot of skeletons in there that are still rattling around it, and I've had to work on myself quite a bit to get rid of a lot of those skeletons. Say, yeah, you're no longer needed. I don't need you in my life anymore, and I'm done with it. But also to have people that are backing you. And you were talking even before the show how good it feels to have the family back, and the trust. You just talked about it with your dad giving you $100 to go to the smoke shop, and Ian, I'm sure, or Kat, I'm sure that you have had that same thing, you know, of knowing, my gosh, everything that I thought was lost and going to be lost forever.
The most important things.
It's coming back. The family, right?
The feeling of knowing my word is worth something.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
So huge.
And that, so and like when we find those, when we're up, I mean, I remember being in recovery at one point years ago, and going for a job and having my past used against me, quote unquote, right? And just that feeling, that hopelessness that comes with that. So yeah, there's the stigma that surrounds it. It's very big. It's still present, and that yet we get these little milestones that, through the work that we get to do to make the healing we get to make, and then opportunities are presented every night, and that's it's big stuff. It's really big stuff.
I remember so we do have to do backgrounds at Wasatch, and because we work with the vulnerable population, we do have to be able to be approved by Department of Human Services. And so pretty much that just means as long as you don't have like a people crime or a domestic violence or like a sex offense or something like that, like then that's fine. And so I remember when I got my email back, and it was like months later, I got my email back from DHS, and it was like, well, tell us about this. And I was like, oh no, like I'm like heartbroken. And then Corey, who's our executor out there, he's like, dude, they're just drug charges. And for like somebody who's like such a high up in such an amazing company to be like, it's just a drug charge.
It's just
like,
yeah.
You know what? You're right. It is just a drug charge. That's it. you know? And so that was really cool. It was a really cool feeling to like not looked at like I was a criminal or a drug addict or, you know, like it was, you made a mistake, you learned from your mistake, let's move on.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's another thing that I love about being involved with this type of stuff and really being in the addiction world. And I've been asked quite a few times as guests on other podcasts, like, did you ever see yourself here 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago? And I'm like, oh, hell no. Hell no.
Right.
And to even see the transformation and hear the transformation of other people and see where they're at today, I mean, their lives are extraordinary. And every single one of them will tell you that. They won't bullshit you. They're like, no, hell no, man, life is freaking awesome.
Right.
Because I went through hell and I'm still here and I'm going after it. You know, the world is mine to take. And my wife goes to USARA, and she goes and works with Tiffany Nacarado over there.
Tiffany.
And Tiffany's amazing, and she does a lot of good stuff. And her sponsor, Trish, which is also, she's an amazing lady. And she was telling me that, you know, she finally got a part-time job, and she's working at Compound Vet, which is kind of crazy because guess what they make there? Drugs.
Yeah, drugs.
For animals. But it's still drugs. Animals, you pretty much take the same
Those
drugs
horse
humans do, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ketamine and fentanyl.
Yeah. But, you know, that's never been my wife's drug of choice. And she's working part-time, and she does the accounts payable and things, and she's been doing that for 17, 18 years. And she's been coming home, and she's like, babe, I just don't want to do this anymore. It's just, I have no passion for it anymore. I'm like, oh, well, what is it? And she goes, I just want to work either with kids or I just want to help people in the recovery. And so I took her to her appointment to Tiffany about a week ago. And she spoke with Tiffany, and on the way home, she goes, all right, this is what I've decided, and what do you think? And she goes, I'm going to put in for a peer support, put in for the certificate for peer support.
Awesome.
And she goes, I was telling Tiffany, I just really want to work in the recovery part, and I want to do my part. And I told my wife a couple years ago that I thought it would be a good idea to go into that part. And of course, her mind was still in the addiction part mind. She wasn't clear-headed yet. And she's like, oh, hell no. And now to see where she's shifting.
Right.
And I just wrote my letter last night. She asked if I'd do it today. And I'm like, you know, it's 8:30 at night. I'm just going to do it now because I know tomorrow's going to be a busy day. And I went and did it. And she's had some other people do a letter of recommendation. And so today she put in the application for it.
That's
and
awesome.
you know, Tiffany was honest with her and said, hey, this time of the year a lot of times they're not looking for it and you may have to wait till October or something like that. But to see her move in that direction, going, you know, I'm done with this. And it was our guest at the earlier show talking about her why. And I really do believe my wife's starting to find her why, where she's at least getting a little spark of it and a vision of it.
Good.
So I think it's really cool. And it's people like you, Cherice, and even like Cap, that I think make a huge change in the world.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
You're not letting your mistakes eat you up,
Nope.
which all of us do. You know, I'm just as guilty of doing it. I've eaten myself up for a lot of stuff. And I think I even mentioned at the summit in St. George last week that, you know, when I was praying and fasting and asking God why I keep going through this with my wife, and she was just starting to make her first start into recovery again, and the word forgiveness kept coming up.
It's a big one.
And the one that gave me the idea of the fasting was when I read Todd's book. And even though I've been brought up LDS, I had to call a buddy up and go, look, man, I haven't fasted since I was 13. How do you do this again? You know, and he had to explain it. But the word forgiveness kept coming up. And in my mind, I was like, no. You want me to forgive her? Oh, hell no. That ain't going to happen. It kept coming up. And I realized it's not her that I'm supposed to forgive. It's me. Because I felt guilty of a lot of the mean things I said to her, a lot of the stuff that happened through the depths of her addiction. And it helped me a lot forgiving myself, because I ended up forgiving my wife for all the stuff that we went through. And I won't say that she put me through, because I'm the one that stayed on that hamster wheel. I had a choice to jump off, and I stayed on it. Yeah, it's just an amazing feeling. And now here I am meeting individuals like yourselves, incredible people. And Cap, and I think you and I, we've touched base. We've gotten some pretty deep conversations in some of this. And I love it. And I found my why, a little over a year and a half ago. I found my why. This is why I went through what I was going through. And Cherice, during our talk, you mentioned that you went and you chopped up a line, and you did it there at the restaurant, right? And you looked at the mirror saying, hey, let this be the last one. And I was one of those guys too, that I had a very, very stressful job, a lot of stuff going on, and it's not an excuse. So my Fridays and Saturday nights was doing coke and drinking. Friday and Saturday. Sunday came, clean my act up, work all week, Friday, Saturday. I did that for a long time. And my wife didn't even know I was, she knew I was drinking. And we would have parties and different things. And I remember even looking in the mirror, asking God, look, man, if I keep doing this, I don't know where it's going to go. And I had gotten up to 198 pounds. It's the most I had ever weighed my whole flipping life. And yeah, he listened. I ended up losing my job. And things kind of started going downhill. But as Nicholas T. Smith says, and I shared it on my talk too as well, about connecting the dots backwards. As I connect the dots backwards, I know exactly why that happened was because it's to put me right here where I'm at today. And I really believe that with you, everything happened to put you right where you're at today. And same with Cap. And that's just how I'm looking at things in life right now.
I'm asked a lot of times by mainly the residents of Wasatch, like, do you regret it? No, I wouldn't. Not any bit of my life would I ever go back and change. Not a bit, because I wouldn't be where I'm at with Wasatch. And I now actually work for JSS as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like I'm not gonna let my criminal history now, stop me. Last week I came up on a roadblock. I was talking to Doppel, because like I told you, I went to school for nursing. And I thought, maybe let's go finish it. And I got off the phone with Doppel, and Doppel told me that I will never be able to hold a licensure in the state of Utah. So that was like the roadblock. But then I stopped and I thought about it, and I'm like, what, my kids are happy and healthy. I have never been more in love with my husband than I am now, and him with me. We're both sober. I just celebrated 3 years sober.
Congrats.
Thank you. And he's going to be 3 years in January. Awesome. And we are normal. We get up, we go to work, we pay our bills, we have nice cars. We're going to buy a house soon, hopefully. Let's drop that market. But and it's just, I wouldn't, not one bit of it, because if I changed that butterfly effect, you change that one little thing, I wouldn't be with him. My kids, I don't know where my kids might be. If I didn't go through. So I am who I am. I'm the mom I am. I'm the employee that I am. I'm the boss that I am. I'm the wife that I am, because of everything that I went through. And so I'm if I could go back, I would just thank the addiction. I would thank it for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really don't know, even if we did go back, if we are supposed to think, because again, I believe this was our journeys. We all have our own individual journeys, right? We all have our individual strengths. I mean, every person is born into this incredible world that we're a part of. We all have been given a talent and a journey to go. And some of us get it, and sometimes some of us are so lost it's hard to find our way back through the forest to find the path or the road. And it's not no weakness on their part, because it's not at all means. It's life may throw those curveballs to them in different directions, and again, it's not for us to judge on that. We're just happen to, I don't know if it's luck or what, that we just happen to be where we're at today, because I call it
God's grace, for sure.
God's grace.
There's no such thing as luck or coincidences.
No,
it was definitely meant to be, the things that we all had to live through and go through. And like I hope that like him and I can help you better understand what your wife was going through. You know, and
Therapy Thursdays.
It is Therapy Thursday, you know, and like I said earlier, you brought up the good point of like to see her, but on my end to see my dad like so trustingly, you know, and it was so great.
And I can imagine. So, you know, you met Sylvia at the beginning of the show, and, you know, she's been on the show talking about her story with what her son has gone through, and Brad's been on the same place. When it's your child, I really do believe, even though I've not walked those shoes, it's a whole different level, I believe, because you can walk away from a marriage and a relationship.
Right.
How do you walk away from your kids?
Right.
You know, so I can imagine in your mom being as tough as she was, and I don't know if it was really the tough love part of it, or just knowing this is how I got to be, because we lose track of us. You know, we forget that we have a bubble that we need to stay in as well. You know, we have our boundaries, and we don't realize we have those boundaries.
Well, look how many, I realize now, the situation like with family members, people that love me, my behavior, where I was at, my darkness, forced them to make some really tough choices. And in retrospect, you know, looking backwards, it was perfect. Connecting the dots backwards, it was the perfect thing that I required. At the time, was I angry? Yeah, I was. Man, I was. It's like, so you guys, mad. And it's your fault, and I'd be better if not for
screw
this.
you.
Now I see it, and those paying attention to those messages. You know, like at certain times, the universe is going to speak to me in a language that I can hear if I'm willing to listen.
Correct. Right. Yeah. I love that. Absolutely love that.
Again, if you're willing to listen,
and
that's a big word. I just asked Janie Marvin. I think she did 10 notepads, the yellow notepads full of breaking down the word if. This woman's incredible. She has studied the brain, and she's just she's incredible.
Next level.
So sometimes I'm afraid to even sit down and talk to her, because she reads you so flippin' well. Within 5 minutes, she knows exactly the type of person that you are by reading your body language and how you talk. And sometimes I'm a little intimidated. She's just this little old gal, you know, who's been to prison, and she's got an incredible story. So, Cherice, is there something that you would like to share with our listeners? Just something, I don't know, inspiration, or what word am I looking for, Kat? You got big words. You're my buddy Al Chappie. You got the big words. I stay with the small ones. What is it that you can share with our audience that may open up their eyes a little bit and make them realize, maybe I'm looking at life different, in the wrong direction?
One quote that comes to mind on that would be, tough situations don't stay, tough people do.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Boom.
So mic drop.
Yeah. No
so
kidding.
there's everybody's going to go through things, and especially family members who like my mom, she just didn't know. And so she had to seclude herself and protect herself. And, she beats herself up all the time. Even to this day, she tries to beat herself up about, if I would have done this different, if I would have done this different. And I'm like, Mom, stop. Yeah. Like I'm a very successful human being. And the transgressions that I created for myself, let me say that again, I created myself. But I would just say, for any family member who doesn't know, ask a question. Are you okay? Because how many times did your family ask you, are you okay?
Oh, yeah. How many times did I lie? Yet still...
mine never did, though. No, mine never did, though. That was the problem, is mine never did. Mine just didn't know how to handle it, and so just backed up, and then and rumors flew around. But, are you okay? Is there something we can do? What can we do? Should we have a talk? If they're high, if they're drunk, who cares? Call them on the phone, talk to them, listen to what they have to say, or pretend to listen to what they have to say, because they're hurting so badly, and that's... Again, from an addict's point of view, I just wanted somebody to tell me that I was worth it at the time.
Yeah.
So.
And I would like to kind of elaborate off of that. So those of us who are on the other side, we need to keep our damn mouth shut.
Don't judge.
Seriously, in all honesty, we need to keep our mouth shut. And I've shared this many times, and I'll probably continue to share it. I picked my wife up from Epic. She had a weekend stay. Pick her up, and she's telling me all this stuff that's going on in the house, all this drama and all this crap. And, a word that I have been working my ass off to get out is that should word. I don't want it in my vocabulary. And I started doing that. well, you should do this and you should do that and you did this wrong. And she stopped me and she goes, will you just be quiet? I got something I want to say to you. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm silent. And she goes, for fucking once, I wish you'd be my damn husband instead of my therapist. Yep. I still didn't get it. To this day, emotions are coming up. To this day, I finally get to be her husband.
Good.
Because now we've got that communication. And when she says, I need to talk to you about something, please just listen.
Right.
I can sit there and keep my damn mouth shut and listen to what they have to say. And that is the mistake that us on the other side, we make on a continuous basis. Because again, we think we understand addiction. We don't understand shit about addiction.
Right.
So when your loved one who's going through addiction, when they're asking for an ear to talk to, again, like you said, if you want to pretend you're listening or whatever, just keep your damn mouth shut and let them talk, because that helps. That really helps. And we may not understand it, but we are actually helping them, because I'm definitely no certified therapist, even though I worked my ass off to be in it. Prove her counselor wrong at Phoenix. I was going to prove her wrong, and it took me 4 years to figure it. Yeah, I'll fix her. You watch me. You're so full of shit. I'm going to make it happen. Yeah.
Watch this.
Yeah, well, it never did. Yeah. Cap, is there something you'd like to share? I mean, this has been a flippin' awesome show.
Thank you.
Yeah, the story's phenomenal. I can, not all of it, but I can relate with a lot of it, and I think that just speaks to the how we're more alike than we are different. Like our motivators, the things that are driving us, and really, like even what you're talking about there with your wife. I mean, we're being governed by fear. You know, we're acting and doing things out of fear because that's just where we're living, whether we're on this side of the addiction or that side of the addiction. It's the same driving force, and we all know how to really screw that pooch when we're in that space. We just really know how to stuff up in that space. And I think that, you know, creating awareness like this and doing our best to pull the stigma out from underneath it is the fastest way for us to come together, no matter what side we're on.
Right.
Amen.
Yep.
Any last thoughts, Cherice?
Just be helping and caring. Be a good human being.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. I love that. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this. And I just want to say again, thank you to all our listeners. Thank you to all our many, many sponsors. I mean, gosh, guys, if it wasn't for you, really, this studio has changed so much. This show has changed so much. And it's because of people like yourself. And again, when you watch an episode, just share an episode with one person. That's all we're asking you to do. Just ask them to like and share and subscribe just to one person, whether it's Podbean or YouTube or any of the other platforms, or even the stuff that comes out on social media, on Facebook. Because you never know whose story that you're going to watch, like this one, that you're going to help. You can help so many people just by sharing it with one person. You know, this is just one idea that was had, and look where it's gone. I mean, I think we're almost a year and a half in now, and it's just incredible, and it's because of our awesome guests and awesome guest co-hosts that come in. So guys, thank you again for everything. We love and appreciate all of you, and just like Cherice said, just be kind, and love will overpower everything, and we need a lot of that right now in the world. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything throughout.